Howdy folks, Darren Ray Fonso here talking about workers' compensation, or labor and industries as we call it here in the state of Washington, and how I've been trying to seeking the minimum federal oversight that Senator Sanders and Tom Perez and Patty Murray and a couple other, 10 senators, I think it was, said we needed this minimum federal oversight 5 years ago, yet everybody has been kind of silent and complicit bullies ever since then. Yet, here it is 5 years later, we have the United States Congressional Research Service, which is a nonpartisan group think tank out of Washington, D.C. that our tax dollars paid for, have come together and decided that we need this minimum federal oversight too for America's injured workers. So it's not just a Sanders issue. This is something injured workers have been fighting for since 1972. Injured workers advocates have been fighting for this since 1972. So today's topic is basically about how I had a Berniecrat work comp lawyer come to my Facebook page and basically try to jump down my throat and tell me, saying, come on, man, represent injured workers. What are you doing here? And it was just kind of like, what? Wait a minute. What I'm doing here is asking you all to get honest about the minimum federal oversight Senator Sanders says we need. And if you think your guy is going to win, please stop telling me that I have to fear Republicans, because if your plan is for your guy to get in to win, then I shouldn't have to fear those Republicans, because you guys are going to be replacing all them. So we should be educating people about this topic in case you do get what you want to succeed at. And even if you don't, we need the other side to address the issue as well. This is not a left or right issue no more. So it's frustrating for me as an injured worker who's been through this and whose father was harmed by this when I was a child for 9 years. My father-in-law was worked to death by the state over a 2-year process through his on-the-job injury as well, where he was worked to death, and it was a long, drawn-out process over 2 years. And then my own 8 to 9 year saga that I had to go through. So as an injured worker who also had to advocate for my father-in-law, it's frustrating to me when I have a work comp lawyer, a Berniecrat work comp attorney from California, come to my page and jump down my throat and tell me that I'm not representing the injured workers and I need to step up and represent them. I laid into him and let him know that, no, sir, you are not correct here. The one who is failing to represent injured workers here in America is somebody who says he's a work comp attorney, and when I show him the Bernie Sanders letter, and then I show him the other letter that the U.S. Congress is saying we need this, and how injured workers have wanted this since 1972, he in his next breath tells me, well, I'm not sure I agree with the federal oversight. It's like, well, I don't really care what your opinion is at this point, because I was told by Sanders what his opinion was 5 years ago. I was told by the United States Congress, Congressional Research Service, those people's opinions that do say we need it. So when you're stepping up and telling me we don't need something everybody else is telling me we need, and then telling me that I'm not representing, as you claim to be a work comp attorney, I have to beg to differ. Work comp attorneys, and especially those who claim to be Berniecrats, if you're not standing up and fighting for our minimum federal oversight, you are siding with the ALEC BIZ men who fear the federal oversight. It's egregious, and it's illogical that the Berniecrat folks, which I am also basically a Berniecrat, I was a long time ago, before he even ran before. So it's frustrating to me that when I asked for them to do what he told us we needed to be done now, the solution to stopping the war on injured workers is this minimum federal oversight that now a nonpartisan commission is saying we need too as well, for somebody who's a work comp lawyer and a Berniecrat to come back and jump down to my throat and say, well, what are you doing here? Why are you failing to represent? No, work comp attorney, you're the ones who are failing to represent us. And I really don't care if you're right or the left anymore at this point. If you claim to be a work comp attorney in America, and you claim you're fighting for the injured workers of America, if you aren't stepping up and speaking up and fighting for the needed minimum federal oversight for the injured workers of America, then you're not truly an advocate for the injured workers here in America. You're an advocate for them in your state. And what we need you to be is an advocate for all the injured workers across the nation, and not, as we're being told needs to be done, And when the injured workers and the victims cry out for that, please don't come to us and try to silence us or tell us that you don't agree with what everybody else is telling us needs to be done, and then tell me you're a work comp attorney. To tell you the truth, I feel very sorry for the clients of this gentleman, because this is what I told him. I feel the people I'm trying to stand up and fight for here are those that you are turning away and not representing, who are still needing representation because there's no money to be made off the cases, yet you won't stand up and help fight for those. So anyways, this goes out to basically the work comp attorneys of America. Basically, if you aren't standing up and fighting for the minimum federal oversight that we have been told we need since 1972, then you are not an injured workers advocate. You prey upon us, make money off us, but when it comes time to truly represent us and have our voices represented, you are not being there for us. And that's what needs to be done here. So I just am appalled that over a couple days here, I've had Berniecrats tear down my Our Broken Workers Comp page so that everything that all my voice could basically be silenced. And then the next day, after I am still had my other page got open and I'm still communicating and they're not silenced me, I have one of their work comp attorneys from California who claims to be a Berniecrat saying, "Gee, Darren, what are you doing?" Well, I'm trying to get the truth told that all of you are telling us you can't get honest about. And you can get honest about it if you can get honest with about all these other priorities. Sanders, I listened to him last night, and he did great, awesome, and I'd love to see him win myself. I've told you all along, I am a Berniecrat. I'm not so much a Berniecrat as much as I am, I'm a for humans. I not even know what I am anymore at this point, because it is frustrating. When I did help carry the sign for him the last time around in the hopes that he would, our voices would be heard, and especially when he wrote us a letter, and I took that letter around to all of his Berniecrats here in my state and begged for help and asked them to put that issue on the table, and they say they can't put that issue on the table, then there's something wrong with that, and that needs to be addressed. And they can't tell me, go away with your one issue. You want us to drop all our issues and work on your one issue. No. I want you to work on all those issues and our issue as well, not tell us to get away with our one issue. And Sanders talked about what he was going to do on day one if he did win, and all the changes he would make and undo that Obama had made, and how the executive orders that he had made, he would rescind those and return those back, and I'm cool with all that. But on that list was not to rescind the order that for tracking on-the-job injuries that Trump put in place. So on day one, if we were helping injured workers, Senator Sanders would be telling us about this minimum federal oversight, how when he gets in there on day one, he's going to rescind that order that President Trump put in that took the tracking of the on-the-job injuries away from us nationally. He will rescind that and fight for, to help us get our minimum federal oversight. To be dishonest about it is not helping us at this point, as far as I'm concerned. And if you do lose and you didn't speak up, then that would be 2 cycles, election cycles, he will have went through, and him and his people will have never gotten honest about the minimum federal oversight he himself has told us we needed. So if you're a work comp attorney, and especially a Berniecrat, and you're not fighting for a minimum federal oversight for the injured workers of America here, and demanding that the Berniecrats that you're working with step up and speak up and say, hey, wake up here, why is Section 801 of the Medicare for All bill excluding our injured workers, and why are we going to leave them behind, just like has been done in Canada? So if you're a true workers attorney, work comp attorney, and an injured workers advocate, as you claim to be, Mr. Work Comp Attorney from California, who's the Berniecrat putting me down for standing up and trying to hold people's feet for the fire to do what needs to be done, and what we told was the solution. And now it's not Sanders' solution. Now it's the U.S. Congressional Research Service's nonpartisan solution that's been saying the same thing us injured workers that didn't even know Sanders since 1972 have all been fighting for as well. Lifetime injured workers advocates groups have been fighting for this minimum federal oversight for decades now. And for the last 50 years, we have needed this. And in 2009, they did try to get it up on the table, and somehow it failed. But that's 10 years ago. It's time to put it back up on the table and try again. Just because you don't try and stop to abolish slavery, just because the other side won't allow it to happen, you continue to fight for it until you get it. And if you're a work comp lawyer in America today, and you're not speaking up and advocating for the minimum federal oversight, then you are siding with those ALEC bizmen that oppose minimum federal oversight. Can't play both sides of the fence no more in America today. What was done to the injured workers in America is being brought out. What was done to injured workers in the dark in America is now being brought back out into the light. And these behind closed door deals and this being quiet and this saying, oh no, you can't talk about it, or we can't get honest about it. No. If we can get honest about all our other pie in the sky ideals and what do they call it, radical ideals, then why can't we support Senator Sanders' call for the minimum federal oversight, even though it's not his radical ideal? Now it's a nonpartisan United States Congressional Service is also telling us we need this radical ideal. So why can we fight for all the radical ideals except for the injured workers radical ideal? What we are doing is leaving the injured workers behind, the same as Canada did as they pushed through a universal health care for all plan, which I am for. Maybe not all injured workers are, but this one is. But I don't want it unless the injured workers are either included, or we, along with whatever plan you put in place, we stand up and fight for the minimum federal oversight to police the grand bargain, or at least police the states that are not honoring the grand bargain that is our human rights and our labor rights. And we need people to stand up and fight for that, not tell us, gee, I don't think I agree with that, but I'm here to jump down to your throat because you're calling out Senator Sanders to do something he told us needs to be done, and the people up top told us need to be done. But you little injured work comp, you little work comp lawyers down at the bottom, you little Berniecrats down at the bottom down here being led by bizmen, local bizmen, telling you we can't get honest about that, are the problem. And it's work comp lawyers in America who say they're the advocates for the injured workers, but are not stepping up and speaking up and demanding this minimum federal oversight be put into place by both sides. If you're not educating, if you're not educating the nation about how the 33 states are failing our injured workers as we've been told, then you're not a good advocate, because you're not educating people or reporting the harm nor the needed solution to the minimum federal oversight, Mr. Work Comp Attorney from California, Berniecrats. And on that note, I still say, I've never said it. I've always said all along that I've been a bleeding heart liberal. That has not changed. What I'm doing is cleaning up my side of the fence so that no matter who wins, we can go fight the other side so that we can get this on the table for all of America's injured workers, whether they are on the right or the left. Thanks, and have a good day. And work comp attorneys of America, you need to wake up and represent us. Not come and jump down the throat of somebody who's trying to get all the rest of you to represent us. Have a good day.